And welcome in to the Rock Talk Studio, the place to find your next great rock and roll book or documentary. This is the podcast that reviews, previews, and most importantly, recommends to you the good stuff. Like today's doc that took a small miracle to bring the surviving members of one of rock's greatest bands together, but the true miracle is what they created with this documentary. I'm your host, Big Rick. Join me for an exclusive look into what's hitting the shelves and the screens, and get ready to rock your reading and viewing list. And today, the spotlight falls on the documentary Becoming Led Zeppelin. It's the summer of 1968. 4 musicians walk into a room, one rehearsal, one spark, one explosion that changed music forever. With the opening crash of Good Times, Bad Times announcing their arrival, and it's fitting that it does because this doc begins with a live capture of Zeppelin's first track from its first album, and it's a warning shot. A new era had arrived, and nothing would sound the same again. For the first time ever, Plant, Page, and John Paul Jones agreed to sit down and be interviewed about what it was like forming the iconic band. And this isn't a rehash. It's not a nostalgia piece. It is a direct line into the veins of the band, and it's fueled by unseen footage, unreleased interviews, and the voices of the men who lived it. One of those voices is John Bonham, who plays a big part in this documentary due to a long-lost audio tape that was dug up by the producer and used to add so much depth and emotion to this doc. But really, the use of the 3 surviving members' new interviews for the documentary and the inclusion of Bonham's voice gives you a feel for the chaos of the early shows and the chemistry that was forming in the band and the raw drive of each member to push themselves to be able to live up to the other members of the band. I love that the film didn't dilute its focus with outside commentary, so there's no critics, there's no other rock stars, no producers, no filler. It's just the band in their own words and in their own voices. And what they get into is their individual journeys, their love of music, how they played their way into each other's lives, and how they moved through the music scene in the 60s, playing small clubs through Britain. And you get to see some of their early influences. You see the rock pioneers like Elvis, Little Richard, Bo Diddley, the Scottish skiffle legend Lonnie Donegan, who Jimmy Page calls a force of nature. And it's a little surprising Link Wray wasn't mentioned, considering how much Page spoke about him and his love for how his guitar influenced him. But it was a great addition of these nice little sections on what was happening musically when these guys were growing up and how the pieces fit together and how the music affected them and then brought them together. Other than the 4 band members, there was one other star of the movie, and that is the music. And the music in Becoming Led Zeppelin doesn't just accompany the story, it takes on a life of its own and totally immerses you in its power. The early live footage with just the band in their most primal form is raw and relentless and uncontrollable. You don't just hear the music, you feel it deep in your chest, as if the walls themselves are vibrating with the birth of something revolutionary. I saw it in the theater and they were cranking it. There was a point, I can't remember what song it was. I think it was Dazed and Confused, where John Paul Jones was locked in with Bonham and they were creating this sound. I don't know what it was. It just stood out. I don't think I could give it a name. It was just this thing you felt. And I tried really hard to figure out what they were doing, but then I just kind of sat back and let it wash over me. Again, the music in this film is otherworldly. I love how the film isolated each member's contributions, kind of revealing the alchemy that was there behind their sound. There is an electrifying version of Communication Breakdown, incredible version of Dazed and Confused, Whole Lotta Love. It just gives you a real feel for what it was like to witness this early version of the band. Then came the breakthrough as they swept through America and then back to Royal Albert Hall and pretty much changing music forever by then. By 1970s, they weren't just well known. They were the world's greatest rock band. The film ends with a really great moment that comes from the Bonham tape. I'm not going to spoil it. It just really wrapped everything up and offered up some closure to the doc and to Page, Plant, and John Paul Jones. Becoming Led Zeppelin is directed by Bernard McMahon, and it runs 2 hours and 17 glorious minutes. And when this movie ended, it was kind of abrupt when it ended. I got to say, it came pretty quick. It had me asking one big question instantly. This doc covers the first two Led Zeppelin albums, and as we all know, there's a lot more to the story. So the obvious big question here, was this enough? Where can you go to get more recommendations and news about upcoming rock and roll books and docs? A place that serves as a reference for when you're looking for something new to check out? Well, that's why I created the Rock Talk Studio Blast. The Blast is my newsletter. It drops the last Friday of every month, and it's packed with the hottest book buzz, exclusive doc updates, current top 5 lists. It's your VIP pass to what's next in books and docs. Only once a month, always worth it. So I'm not going to spam you. You get the last Friday of the month, and it's totally free. Are you sold yet? If that's a yes, send me an email to info@rocktalkstudio.com. I will include it in the show notes also so you can look there. Okay, let's dive into that one big question. And then I have some news on a book that I'm giving away to all the subscribers of the Rock Talk Studio Blast. Let's jump into that one big question this week, and that was becoming Led Zeppelin enough? Did it satisfy me completely? Did I totally feel complete when I left the movie? No way. It was not enough. I get it. It's called Becoming Led Zeppelin, and it was great. That opening moment, that origin story, the three guys coming together, it couldn't have been any better than that. But where's being Led Zeppelin? Actually, where's Peter Jackson when we need him? Where's those 8-hour Led Zeppelin movies like he did with the Beatles and Get Back? This should be just part 1. How about part 1 becoming Led Zeppelin, and then part 2 being Led Zeppelin, and then the end of Led Zeppelin part 3? There is just too much story left to be told here. But honestly, what it took to get these three guys together was extremely challenging for the director. I think he might have gotten out of them all they were willing to give. And I think the angle of discussing the beginning of the band was comfortable for them. I don't think they want to get into the later years and all the debauchery that followed. Still, there's so much great music and so many great moments that it's a real shame we don't get part 2, part 3, part 4, whatever, more from Led Zeppelin. And I say that, but in no way does that discount how great this documentary is. I don't want to give you that impression. I don't want to take anything away from this. This is a triumph that is the #1 documentary of the year so far in 2025, without a doubt. Easily, it's tremendous. I highly recommend it. It's front row center all the way. Go see it. Just started streaming, so that's really cool. And you tell me, Zeppelin fans, after seeing it, you tell me that you don't want more. Would you like to win the new Queen book, Queen, A Night at the Opera 50 Years? It's a hardcover coffee table, awesome new book. Well, that is this month's giveaway. I just reviewed it last week, so if you want to learn more about it, just go back to last week's episode. Any Queen fan is going to love it. And right now, anyone who is signed up for the Rock Talk Studio Blast, the monthly newsletter, is automatically entered in to win. So if you haven't signed up yet, now's a great time to get in on this giveaway. This book, I have to mention, is only available to U.S. residents. So all you need to do is send me an email at info@rocktalkstudio.com and say, Big Rick, send me over that blast. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Love talking rock and roll, especially when I get to talk Zeppelin. Tune in next week. I've got a book for you. It's the book that has surprised and overwhelmed me more than any book I've read so far this year and left me with a big fat smile. All right, let's tear it down, pack it up, and head on down the road. I'll see you next time in the Rock Talk Studio.